All right, guys, welcome back to Music is My Mantra, where we discuss all things wellness and music. Today, I have an incredible guest on. Welcome, Robin Jackson.
Hello. It's amazing to be here in your lovely space. Yeah.
So good to have you. Robin Jackson is an award winning songwriter, multi instrumentalist, community builder who's passionate about helping songwriters and creative seekers unlock their voice and build connection through music. With global tours, collaborations with notable artists, and 60 million viral streams in China, we'll have to talk about that one too. Robin draws on his insight and experience to help guide others to creative freedom. He is the founder and CEO of the Songwriter Soiree, an internationally recognized organization whose events and programs have helped thousands unlock their creative natures. Robin lives for morning rituals, mountain biking, sound baths, and lives in Portland, Oregon with his partner and baby. So, welcome again.
Yay.
Yeah. We had a little pre-call before this, and as I mentioned, I just think that your story is so fascinating and so inspiring for many people probably, but just definitely for myself. So, tell me a little bit about how you got started with music.
Thanks. Yeah. I started when I was, well, my dad was a musician. He was a songwriter. So I grew up with a very prolific, kind of tortured songwriter in my home. He was going through a lot of emotional stuff in his life, and music was sort of like his way of therapy, actually, since we're talking about therapy. So I grew up with music as therapy in my home, where he would play a lot of spiritual songs and songs about healing and moving through challenge. So I grew up with that on the piano. And then yeah, it's cool. These interviews are really fun because I don't always know what I'm going to talk about. And the
Yeah.
door gets opened, and then I'm like, oh, and what I thought I was going to say, suddenly something else comes out that's even more meaningful. And I'm just kind of I'm a new dad. I have a 7-month-old baby, and I am going through this experience where I feel like my dad, my memory of him, the age I am now is like really strong of my memory of him when he was that age and
Mm.
how music was a huge part of my life. And him and my mom really encouraged me to start on the violin at age 5 in Suzuki violin. So that was like my foundation. And then I went to a Waldorf school. I was very fortunate. My poor hippie parents scrounged to send me to this school, and I'm so grateful. Thank you for the introduction to music in Waldorf. They really encourage it. So yeah.
Yeah. I haven't experienced that personally, but I've heard really awesome things about that
Yeah.
program.
Yeah, and I could speak more about all that, but I don't wanna.
So you grew up
Mm, mm.
in a musical family.
Yeah, very musical, yeah.
Yeah. When was the turning point for you where you wanted to actually pursue this? Or maybe you just always knew that this was something that you wanted to do as a career?
That's a great question. Well, yeah, music was always my most natural thing growing up in my life. I think some of us are fortunate to, like, sort of get in touch with that. However, like many people out there who maybe are listening, when you realize that your most natural gift is an art, sometimes society doesn't support it in the same way, unless you live in Cuba or something, or Brazil, and there's a lot of social pressure to do something that makes money, and music was always that thing that was so easy for me, but didn't fit, and so I sort of resisted it as my, like, path. I didn't know how to make it my path till I was about 23, and I moved to Portland, Oregon, and I had a couple jobs at that point. Ugh. No, I'm kidding. I think everyone should work a service industry job at
Yeah.
least one point in their life because it gives you a perspective and appreciation for people that do that, that I think is very important. Yeah.
Not easy.
Yo. What?
It's not easy.
No, it's not easy, but it's so humbling in a good way. And so I was working a service industry job, and I think 6 months into it, I got fired when I woke up for like the 4th time too late to come into my shift because I'd been up all night playing music. And I remember when they fired me, it was one of those things that was like, "Oh, my ego, thank you."
Yeah.
I was like, "All right, I'm gonna do is take 6 months and just do music and see what happens and be a poor musician or whatever." And I was playing in a couple of bands, and I just did that 6 months. I took on the job of booking agent and publicity manager for the band I was in, And so I supplemented my music income through being useful as an administrative manager and then booked tours all over the country. And yeah, I was making my living as a musician for many years. It wasn't like a very affluent living and often was very stressful, but it afforded me a level of creative freedom.
And so you were able to support yourself and your band through touring.
Yeah, yeah, my whole band, most of their income was from the band. The band was called Vagabond Opera, and it was a kind of a well-known like cabaret, steampunk, gypsy, like yeah, band. We played in LA at the Edison a lot. Yeah, and
How many
so
people were in the band?
there were 6 people in the band. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was fun. So yeah, I lived those wild days in that band.
Yeah.
We toured all over the country, all over Europe.
Oh, nice. Did you
Yeah.
dedicated tour bus or van?
We did. We had a van. We spent months in the van. We went all over Poland and Greece and Germany and France and Portugal and all over the United States. We played at the Kennedy Center. It was like a really wild time when, especially in Portland on the West Coast, there was this kind of movement called neo-tribalism, where there's a lot of like marching bands and circus arts and belly dancers and like this sort of resurgence of this kind of like old world meets new world. Kind of when Burning Man was kind of coming up.
Yeah, that's what came to mind.
Yeah, we were right in that world, and
Did
we
you
kind of
ever play with the Extra Action marching band?
they were all good
No?
friends of mine. I
Yeah.
I played in a group called March 4th marching band
Okay,
for 8 years, who were like the good sister of Extra Action,
nice.
and we were all friends, and
I
we
used to
played.
stay in my apartment in Brooklyn when
No way, that's hilarious.
Yeah, yeah.
You heard it right here, folks. The
Yeah.
words are small.
It's
No,
so
so that's so funny. Yeah, so we were like the Yard Dogs Traveling Roadshow. They were associated with them. So Extra Action, yeah, they were like our like kind of bad older cousin.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
such a small
Small
I mean,
world.
that's what the amazing thing about music is, right?
It's so true. Music is a huge connection point. It's a gateway. It's a key into many doors. And I would just always encourage children to follow it because it opens way more doors beyond their instrument.
Absolutely, I
Yeah.
fully believe that
Yeah.
on many different levels, you know?
That's cool. Wait, go back. So the extraction stayed in your apartment?
Yeah, so I sort of in this, like, music apartment called the Rad Pad.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a little disappointing the last time I went back to New York, I saw that it had been turned into a barber shop, and it was it was like the quintessential Brooklyn experience where we had
Yeah.
the main floor was, like, street level, so then we had an entrance to the basement, which was like a practice space, and we would have shows
Nice.
down there, and
Oh my god.
yeah, it was just a really fun
Wow.
time in my 20s.
That's so cool. I understand. That's so cool that you knew them. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, my
I knew we'd have some threads,
there's always some
So there's one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my old roommate Erin was friends with them, so that
Okay.
Mhm.
That's so cool. We used to play in Brooklyn at this little bar called Barbez, I think. That was like a little Eastern European music hub.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Ugh, yeah.
The 20s, right? And you're like, those were the days.
Well, tell me so you were saying that you've done some work with music therapy and children, and I just really would love to know how you got into that, from touring days to sort of the shift of, helping people. What did that look like for you?
This is a great segue. So I played in this band called March 4th, which is still touring, by the way. They're like a rock and roll circus marching band, one of those. They're amazing. Check them out. They play all over the United States. And they really helped me flourish as like a flamboyant artist, I guess, without, like it's really out there. And I sort of,
Space to create.
yeah, yeah, big people with stilt walkers and horns. And,
So
and I was like, at the same time, I was sort of getting into working at these camps called Power of Hope, which are still around, which offer these really amazing, immersive 8-day therapy, personal empowerment camps for teenagers, where they use art as a way to help teenagers sort of build confidence and find their voice. And it's around social justice. It's really cool. So I decided to be like, oh, I want to start my own camp for teenagers, but I want it to be like March 4th camp, where we take the like energy of March 4th that really brings people together and combine it with this like work that's helped so many kids. So I kind of infused these two worlds together. And so, yeah, we created these summer camps that then turned into a full on year round after school program for kids 5 to 18. And the therapeutic part for me and for them, what I really saw was like a lot of teenagers come in with a lot of trauma and hard backgrounds and abuse, and they have a lot of like low self-esteem and uncertainty. And that when you give them like a easy entry point through art, like, hey, if you can learn how to juggle in 2 days, it kind of gives them a little like, you see this light go off. They're like, oh, I'm good at something. And I'm good at something where people are connecting with me. And it's the idea is that it helps transfer into their life. So at the end of the camp, we are like, okay, what did you learn about taking risks? What did you learn about judging other people when you came into the room? What did you learn about your own ability to make a difference in the world? And so they leave just being a lot more engaged in the world and feeling more self-love and working through stuff, but they often would work through some stuff in the week, so yeah, so that's kind of how I got into the blend. I ran a nonprofit for 11 years doing that.
Did you see, I mean, from 5 to 18 is a large
Yeah.
time, and 11 years doing that. Did you get to witness any of your camp goers' evolution over that time, or was it
Did, yeah. I mean, I did it long enough because it was a decade, so I saw some kids come in at, like, 6, 7, 8 years old, and then knew them until they were, like, 20, 22, 23. They'd graduate when they were 18, and then they'd start teaching at our camps.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so or they'd go off and do something, and you could just really see their parents would just be like, "Wow, this has been such an amazing journey. I don't know where they would have gone without this." We really saw them flourish and come out of their shell in this space. Yeah. So it was, and I'm still friends with some of those kids.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you see any of them go off and tour or make careers out of it?
Yeah. Some of them have gotten into that. A couple of them joined March 4th actually. And some of them are into like sound engineering and yeah. Yeah.
So
So
cool. And so that must have overlapped a little bit with your living room sessions and songwriting soiree that you
yeah.
hosting, right? Because
Yeah.
I think you've
Absolutely.
been doing that for about 12 years or so.
Yeah. So kind of around the time I was I was still in March 4th, but it was kind of a couple of years for leaving. And yeah, I started the Songwriter Soiree in 2009, right after my dad passed away, my musical dad. And I was just going through a really hard time, dealing with a lot of grief and going through a breakup. And I was 29, which is a big transition year for a lot of people, and just looking for like my path. What is my path as an artist? What is my career? Who am I? What am I doing? And I wanted to, yeah, share my music, like some of my more vulnerable, like songwriting type songs, and create an album. And I just for some reason had a lot of hard time being seen and heard in that. It was easy for me to be in the more like extroverted groups and play saxophone. I mean, we played at the World Cup in 2004 in front of 40,000 people. And I was like, no problem. But when it's like me with a guitar singing about my heartbreak with like terrifying.
Intimate and super vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to start this event and I really saw a need for it. And so I started it in my living room called the Songwriter Soiree. I invited 50 songwriters and friends and they all came. And there were some amazing people there. Peter Yarrow from Paul and Mary came to one of the early ones. And yeah, Storm Large, who's like a Portland celebrity. And like, yeah, it really created a space for people that was really needed, I think, a connection point where we felt this sort of collective sigh of relief around vulnerability. And so, yeah, I was doing that kind of the same time as the kids' camps. So I was really into like community organizing. I was like full on into community organizing at that point. Yeah.
Do you ever think that that's where things would lead, or did you sort of just, realize that that was an important part of what you wanted to create, so you figured it out?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, no, I think some of the best things in life are the ones that happen by accident, where we follow a thread. I wasn't like going to college and being like, I'm gonna start a bunch of songwriting retreats and a whole songwriting program. Yeah, so I just started something that felt like a need for me and that I thought other people would enjoy. And I wasn't planning on doing it as like a business, which now it is like my full on business. And we have like tons and hundreds and thousands of people, not hundreds of thousands, but someday, but thousands of people have come through our programs and been in our stages. And it's all started from this little living room gathering that was just like wanting to create some connection in like a really busy world and out of a place of my own personal grief, processing. So yeah, I didn't know what it would be like. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I just think that, that's a testament to the power of music because it's very much like you have to try things, right? When you're writing songs or when you're building your music career, there's really no set path to follow. It's just you just have to try a lot of different things,
Yeah.
to see something unfold that really can have such a huge impact on the community is so awesome.
Yeah, and you've done that. I mean, your path has been curvy and like pointy and like, now you're offering this cool space to kind of talk about multiple areas that are passionate and meaningful for you that sort
Yeah.
of weave together. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, in a creative world, you just don't always know where it's gonna go.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
When you are fostering those community spaces, whether it's your retreats or the monthly sessions that you hold, what's something that you've learned from your experience working with adults and even potentially working with the kids? Because I'm sure that there was, overlap in some ways.
What's something I've learned just by holding those spaces?
Yeah, like as you're
Yeah.
facilitating
Oh, yeah.
the groups, like,
Oh my gosh, so many
I'm
things.
sure there's lots. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll just see what comes in. I mean, I really have learned how much people desire meaningful connection, and that so much of it is about the community, and there's just like a natural warmth. I remember the very first Songwriter Soiree retreat that we hosted in 2019, which is a 5-day event. We host for 100 adults. I mean, anyone can come as long as they
October,
can.
right?
What?
Oh, sorry. The next one's in October.
Yeah, the next one's coming up in October, yeah. They're amazing. They're like deep dive immersions of songwriting teachers from all over the country, and we do workshops and yoga and songwriting, open mics. And I remember the first one was so special, and all these people came I didn't know. I was like, "Who are these people? How'd they find out about it?" And they were just like desperate for this space where they felt a lot of them didn't know each other. And okay, here's what I learned. What I realized is that we're all kinda teenagers still inside, and from working with teenagers, I realize that adults are even more teenagers than teenagers sometimes. Like, we all like to feel included. We need a certain thing to feel safe. We kind of wanna feel like we're connecting in a certain way. We all need to be seen and heard.
Yeah.
And we need a certain space to do that. And yeah, there's some parallels there. Remember just like this guy coming who didn't know anybody, and I just did this thing where he walked in and I was talking to someone, I just kind of like tapped him on the shoulder, which was like a hey, glad you're here. And he said later at the end, he's like, when you did that, my whole experience changed. I felt like you noticed me and I suddenly could relax and I had like one of the best weekends of my life just from that little like shoulder brush. So it's like never underestimate, I guess, the power of small acts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to acknowledge people.
Of acknowledgement. Small acts of acknowledgement go a really long way.
Would you say that that's sort of the approach that you take when you're in those rooms to help facilitate
Yeah.
growth? Or, I'm sure that there's lots of different things that you're thinking about when you're
Mhm. Yeah, I really come from a place of like watching so if I'm facilitating like the whole group, I'm really aware of wanting everyone to feel included and feel like noticed and engaged in the space. So I try and hold a space where it's not about telling people or lecturing, like how do we get people engaged right away through singing, through movement, through questions. Yeah, we do these things on our retreats where every time we come together, I call them community ahas, where I'm like, I want to hear from like 10 people, like what's a little moment that happened for you that inspired you or about somebody else. And when those voices start coming in, just sharing those moments, you realize people don't realize they started to put together like, oh, this was such a meaningful moment when I went to this workshop and was given learned this thing, I met this person, and it's just yeah, it's important to bring voices together into the space.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because your songwriting retreats are, you said 100 people, right? So that's
yeah.
a big group.
Yeah, it's a big group, but it's, like, big enough where it's exciting, but small enough where you could actually connect with everyone over the whole time.
Yeah. Well, I know you said you mentioned that, you do lots of smaller breakout groups and that sort of thing
Mhm. Yeah,
that
yeah.
all flows together nicely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's been a cool experiment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when I started, I was like, "Are people gonna like this? You know, what is this?" And yeah, and now, like, a whole community is formed from these retreats. People come every year from, like, all over the country, people coming from Australia this time.
It's all ages, or is there an age like you?
Yeah, I mean, in general, like, young adult to old. We've had, like, 10-year-olds before with a parent,
Yeah.
as long as they're kinda, like, can just hang with the vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're already like prodigies or something.
Yeah, exactly. Totally.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, do you wanna tell us a little bit about your own music? Because I'm sure that, that's other than, obviously the groups that you were in and touring with, I know that you're still writing yourself.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I've been writing music since I was a teenager and writing for my bands, and then I have 3 solo albums out, that have all been, like, really amazing. I just had one come out this year called Silver Lining. And, yeah, my songs they've helped me move through a lot of grief and challenge. They are therapy for me, and they often have a theme, which is, like, kind of about sorta how to move through it and not just stay in it.
yeah.
What silver lining can you get from the music, from the experience through the music? So, yeah, I don't tour as much these days, mostly play locally, 'cause I have my baby,
Yeah.
but I love songwriting, I love recording, I love collaborating. So, yeah.
Do you write while you're also facilitating these groups, or is that
It's funny.
that
No, at the
really
retreat, I wish.
too much?
Yeah, yeah, no. The songwriting retreat, I'm totally in, like, organizer mode
Yeah.
and creating space for other people to write. Yeah. So, but I often will write after I come home because 'cause I've been so around all this creative energy, and I often tell others, like, "You might not write a song this weekend, but you might write after the weekend."
After you get to digest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So Silver Lining is streaming everywhere, I'm assuming. So for listeners out there, check it out, especially if you need a little boost of inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that something that you wrote after one of your retreats, or tell us a little more about
Sure.
that
Absolutely.
kind of song?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of those songs were a mix of, like, processing some heartbreak, both romantic and other heartbreak over the last, like, 7, 8 years, but, again, they're really, like, about finding the silver lining in life, so it's often it's like, what is the gold in there? How can I transmute this hard thing? And, like, the opening track, "Back to Your Heart," it's about repair, it's about, like, when I sort of wasn't treating person that I was with very well because I was kind of just operating from a scarcity place, and I just was like, later on, like, how do I come back to her? You know, what can I say? Like, who am I? And like, that song just kind of came out about that. And there's a music video of it now, which is gorgeous. It was shot in the Columbia Gorge in
Yep.
Oregon, and I just really love the video. So you can see it on YouTube. And then there's another song called Broken Open, which is, again, it's about, like, not just breaking your heart, but how do I break open the heart more to, like, and yeah, I love the band. I worked with 2 producers who did, like, a real kind of pop orchestral folk arrangement of all the
Okay.
songs with some really amazing players. My friend Haley Johnson is on there, who's from Portland, who's a great singer-songwriter. She's playing with the Avett Brothers right now.
Oh,
I'm like,
cool.
Go Haley,
Yeah.
take me with you, take me with you." So, she's amazing. She's young and touring, so I'm just like, "Go, go."
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there's a song on there called "Same Tree," which I wrote after reading the book Overstory by Richard Powers, which is an amazing novel. I can't recommend it enough about the interconnectedness of trees. And it's sort of set in the West Coast timber wars in the '80s, and it sort of talks about, like, relationships and technology, and, like, it's an amazing book. And I read the book and I was like, "I need to write a song about this that's not a heartbreak song, but a song about, like humanity and positivity and how we're all connected." And so
Yeah.
I wanna write more songs like that. Mm.
Yeah, I've been feeling that need also, like,
Yeah.
especially coming from a similar place that it sounds like you as well have used music for healing for so long. I noticed
Yeah.
I was writing a lot of songs about like being lonely or, being sad.
Which have their place for
Yeah,
others too.
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I I still really love a lot of those songs, but sometimes when I'm playing them, I'm like, I don't they just don't resonate the same, which is a good thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think it really can be like a time capsule sometimes.
It can be a time capsule.
Yeah.
Exactly. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, and I used to just look at more positive songs. Not I would listen to them, but I just never thought that, like I had this reverence for the moody songwriter, like the moody artist,
Totally.
And I think as I've grown in my own journey, I've realized, well, there's room to be happy and be more at peace than the the alternative.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting how our songwriting can evolve, and I think, as any good artist, you wanna see that evolution as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool to go back. It's funny because, like, the songs on my first album from 2010, I just still love them the best. And a lot of them are still relevant, even though they're like, oh, that wasn't a time capsule, but they're universal enough. And I'm just like, okay. So, but yeah, there's something about wanting to move beyond the I need to heal and talk about my weight of my heart and wanting to like challenge myself to write music that needs to be written. Music
Mhm.
that can that matters.
Yeah,
That music that can really I was like, what is a song? Dar Williams, who's a great songwriter, has a book called Writing a Song That Matters. And I just love that idea of writing a song that like really helps people, helps a movement. So yeah.
I wrote that down to check it out. I haven't heard
She's
that.
great. She's an amazing songwriter. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
What would you say from, like, a technical songwriting perspective is a way that people can translate their experience into more of that universal, like, language, if you will? Like, maybe just, the first few things that come to mind, 'cause I know we don't have time for, like, a whole breakdown songwriting workshop, but,
Totally.
like,
Yeah.
for maybe for the audience that is just considering using songwriting as a tool.
Yeah, I can speak to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a few couple things that come to mind. I think writing choruses that are hooky that people can sing along to is good because a song like that, you want people to be able to sing along. Because if you want that message to reach, you want them like imagine the whole audience singing with you at your show, So what's like when you're writing a hook, something that you just feel like will be an earworm. And I teach and one of my teachers teaches through at our retreats in our online community this workshop called Pocket Songs,
Okay.
which is about how to write songs a cappella that are like simple song, like kind of vocal, simple a cappella songs that are catchy, that are sort of born out of like something meaningful or like a message that you have, something you've been through or something that you want to move through, something that you feel like others would benefit from. Yeah, so they're like simple, usually like maybe just the same motif, verse, song over and over, or like a verse and a chorus. There's one of our teachers' names is Samara Jade, and she's from Asheville, and she teaches this great workshop called Pocket Songs that I love, or medicinal pocket songs. So yeah, so that's a really great way for people who are not songwriters, quote unquote, to
Right.
kind of get into that. You could
Yeah.
check her out or check us out because we're gonna have her teaching a workshop pretty soon in our online community
Awesome.
on sort of how to translate your message into a simple song you could sing with people.
Yeah, I think that well, one thing I talk about on the podcast on my solo episodes is just, like, how really everyone does have a voice, and songwriting, you don't necessarily need to technically have an instrument because you have your voice,
Mm,
and so it sounds like that would be a really interesting tie-in with, like, pocket songs, and why don't you tell us about your online community?
yeah,
That's
yeah. So
exciting that it's pretty new.
thanks. Yeah, it's called The Songwriter's Nest, and we often get asked at our retreats and stuff like, "Oh my god, I had such a transformative experience. How do I maintain this all year round?" So communities are a big thing right now. We all know that online communities are like the hot jazz of the moment, which I love because It's using technology, which has disconnected us in a lot of ways to stay more connected.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so it's called a songwriter's nest, and it's meant to be just a place where you can come for like sort of year-round inspiration. We offer events every week, either online open mics. You can come and try out your new songs in a really supportive space in an online open mic before you hit the in real
Nice.
life. We
Yeah.
do a song feedback session, so you can get feedback on new songs if you want it. We have guest artist teachers come in, and then there's places you can upload your songs to get them to share them and get advice on like anything really, recording, music business, structure, songwriting tips. I'm in there every day answering questions and helping people. And it's a place for people just to kind of connect. And yeah, so we have a monthly membership and you can join for a whole month for free just to see if you like it
That's awesome.
and take all the workshops and everything for free. So yeah.
All the workshops are included with, like, a ton of value for
Yeah. Yeah. We just launched it, so it's new. So it's a little intimate group and we're growing it right now. So
yeah. And it sounds like you've got a solid start. Like, you mentioned you have people even from Australia, like, all over.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, songwriting retreats, they're a thing. People are looking for them and they're looking for a certain vibe. We just had a woman come over from the UK to one of our retreats last month, and she was on a tour of songwriting retreats in the United States. And it was great because we were at the end. So we got to hear about like, she was like, yours is by far the most community oriented and the most supportive and the most like welcoming and
What a
about
compliment. That's huge.
connection. She's like, some of them are just like all business. Like ours is not like how to write platinum hit songs and move to Nashville. It's more about like how to create momentum for your own songwriting practice, how to enter into it, how to maintain that practice, and have a space to be safe and vulnerable and like have a community that supports you. So
Well, and that makes sense because I know that you mentioned that you do actually have therapists on staff.
right. Nice segue.
I just you know, I've always wondered about that because I do know that songwriting can also be a way to sort of bring up a lot, like, of suppressed emotions that maybe you just don't even realize that you have until you start digging into it.
Yeah, I'm sure you know that.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
How do
absolutely.
people access that? Like, are they just available on call during the
Oh
retreat?
my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, after the first one, I was like, "Oh, this is not just a songwriting retreat. This is a therapy camp."
So cool.
When I saw how much people were like going through just we okay, so you would appreciate this being a voice teacher. We include vocal opening, vocal freedom, and vocal training as a big part of every retreat because everyone's singing mostly, and most people have complications around their voice and it's an easy way to connect. So many people come who are like, I had trauma. My teacher told me I was a terrible singer when I was 8, and I have never sung since then. Or my dad yelled at me, when I was 10 for singing, and I've never sung since then. Shame, all that stuff. I'm sure anyone who's
Right.
listening, half the people can relate. And so stuff like that would come up. Stuff around just being seen and heard would come up. Stuff around the intense content of their songs would come up. And then just, like, being in a community, your stuff comes up, like, being around people, and so we just realized we couldn't handle all of the stuff, and so, yeah, I hire a care team now, which has 2 licensed therapists on it for all of our events, and they're there the whole time just to be available for anybody, just to offer support, emotional support. Yeah, it's really been and they're busy the entire weekend, yeah. So it's been really essential. Yeah, we also have people who are, like, identify as different marginalized communities on the care team too. We have, like, a BIPOC group that comes and supports people of color. Yeah, it's cool. I'm learning a lot about, like yeah, a lot about people holding these events and how to create a supportive community space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it sounds like by giving some money different resources through your Nest group, it really does feel like that's an extension of, your retreat.
Yeah. Yeah, the Songwriter's Nest is meant to be an extension of our in-person events where, so many people trial and error their way through, especially songwriters, like, you just get so much when you can get around people who've already done what you're doing, who've already been through it. Like I've recorded 20 albums. I've crowdfunded 6 of them. Like, I've done all I'm an over researcher. And so you can go try and figure out which distributor is right for you, or you can come into the community and ask a couple questions and we will just be like, here's what we learned. Like save yourself months. Like or people create ideas that inhibit them. Like how many people, myself included, create ideas that are blocks. For instance, one woman was like, she asked a question in one of our community forums, like, "Oh, I don't ever play my songs because I don't feel like I'm really allowed to play songs that are like about like the really hard stuff I've been through." And she's like, I was like, "Why do you feel that way?" She's like, "Well, it just feels way too like I don't want to impose on people." I was like, "Do you listen to Adele?"
Yeah.
Like, or Billie Eilish? It's like I mean, and so I was able to be like, "Hey, this is what we want. People want this because they're all going through it, and it's so cathartic." And it was really eye-opening for her, and it really helped her just being in that space. And she comes to all of our open mics online, and she processes a lot, and I think she gets a lot from the Songwriter's Nest just to work through her own stuff. And then when she comes and plays in person, she feels a lot more confident.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Would you say that most people have an instrument that they play already when they come to retreats, or are they more so just coming from that writer's perspective, using their words and their voice, or
Yeah.
is it for both? Y
It's both. I like that question. It's really for anybody. You don't need to play an instrument to come to retreats at all. We get a lot of poets and a lot of like just songwriters who maybe don't play their instrument very well, but they want to learn.
Yeah.
And so we also design the retreats to be open to people who don't identify as songwriters, but just like want to be around music and creativity and singing. We have drumming, we have spoken word, we have poetry, we have movements. There's a lot of ways to like engage there that are not just like learn how to write a hit song.
Yeah.
It's more like a creativity community retreat with a strong focus on songwriting. And so I always make sure there's something there for people that are like, yeah, good with words. And then we help people find co-writers. So
Cool.
that's a big part of it is a lot of poets come and then they meet a piano player and then they start writing together.
That is huge. I think
Yeah,
it's so hard to find people that you really can allow yourself to write with, like,
absolutely.
it's just like it's a vulnerable space,
Yep.
and I've had partners where I'm in bands with them, and everything is great when we're just doing covers or songs that I've already written, but actually writing with them, like, just still didn't click. Yeah, it's weird.
That's so interesting. You have a hard time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like different style. Like what's been the hardest thing about that? I'll ask you a question now.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is safety, and I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself, and so without I think it's like holding this perception, like trying to control the perception that people have of me, even though that's not possible.
Yeah.
And then also just there's a s you really have to know what your feelings are if you're gonna be writing about your feelings.
Yeah.
This part in my life, it was really I felt like I was trying to be more of like a counselor as opposed to just a f
Got it.
if that makes sense. So,
Right. Yeah.
trying to manage things that are really not in my own control. Like, that was the space. I've definitely grown from that time in my life, but yeah, it's interesting how some people I've noticed that I feel really open and safe with to write with, and other people, it is nerve-wracking? I mean, it's never not nerve-wracking, but it's just easier than others.
Yeah, it's super vulnerable. I think to like throw out lyrics and be like, "Oh, if part of you is already questioning your own lyrics, like, are you gonna think these are cheesy?" Or
Yeah.
is that initial energy I had even for performing my songs in front of people. I think it's such a beautiful practice to like not take it personally or like not let your ego be the one driving it and just be like,
Just put
we're
out
just gonna throw this out here. We're just
Yeah.
putting out all of our stuff on the table together and we're gonna look at it.
Yeah, you're
And
getting into that space where it's like, we're
yeah,
anything goes.
anything goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. A lot of people express. I found the easiest pairings for co-writers are usually if one person's doing the music and one person's doing the words. That seems to work because then everyone's kind of in their own lane.
Yeah.
And we have a thing in our online community called Find a Co-writer, and people meet up in there and they post like what they're looking for,
Cool.
and then someone else will come in, and it's been cool. Some people have met, and we have a bunch of poets in there who are like, I want to write songs, but I don't play. And then there are a lot of musicians who are like, I play great, but words are like arduous, you know.
Yeah. That sounds like a great match made in heaven.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, gosh, we are nearly at an hour here with
Amazing.
I mean, I knew it would be a really fun conversation with you. So thanks
Yeah.
again for coming on board and just for the listeners that are potentially in Portland or how I know you have your monthly
Yeah.
workshops or nights, if you will. Is it like the first Monday or what when?
No, it's all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah, we do a monthly open mic that's really special. It's a special kind of open mic. It's been going for 16 and a half years, and it's kind of a really living room energy, very supportive space, all original music only. People come and they collaborate in the moment. It's always like a really good, big supportive listening audience. And so that happens once a month, usually sometimes on Thursdays, but it moves all over the map. Yeah.
Okay.
And then our retreats, yeah, are twice a year. And people come from all over the world now for those. So, yeah.
Is that usually in, like, March, October, or s
Spring and fall generally. It's moved around quite a lot just because of COVID and then our venues. So, the next one is in October, and then the one after that is in May 2026.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I have to ask you because I've asked this to every guest so far.
Right.
Is there a song that you can think of, or maybe more than one, that you can say has saved your life or changed your life in a s
I know. That's a big question. Yeah, it's a very, very big question. It's funny. It's interesting. There are artists. I have a couple of answers for that, and they're both going to be like probably not songs that anyone is really familiar with.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. One of them. So I'm a saxophone player, so
Mhm.
that's like my first instrument. And when I first heard John Coltrane play My Favorite Things, I was also like a Sound of Music fanatic when growing up
Oh,
as a
yeah.
kid. I was so into musicals, like, and so I heard that song.
Right? My
What?
girlfriend. That's a family favorite in my
Oh,
family.
cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when I first heard him play that song, I think I was like 11 or 12 or something. And I was just like, you can do that? It like opened up a whole world for me around like, oh, jazz. And you can play any song you want on jazz. And then, as a music nerd, I went to school for jazz and music. And so I just like really geeked out on the modal. He's a modal musician. And if you don't know what modal means, look it up. But yeah, it's a sound, it's a type of scale. And it really opened up my whole songwriting approach when I heard that song. And then as a horn player too. Yeah. And then I think the other song is, oh my God, I'm having a total Kermit the Frog, Rainbow Connection.
Oh, t cool. Yeah.
I loved Rainbow Connection so much as a kid. I used to like try and learn how to play it on guitar too, and it just like gave me a sense of like positivity in the world,
Yeah.
at a young age.
Kermit the Frog singing it. It's, like, such a beautiful song.
Such a beautiful song.
It really is. The words
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So I'll go with those instead of like some like gnarly indie folk hard hitter. Those kind of more unorthodox ones.
That's all are
Yeah,
welcome here.
yeah, yeah.
Very cool. And was that a song that you found in your childhood as well?
Yes, I did. Yeah. And I also love it because it modulates a lot. It's pretty complicated musically. And so I kind of broke it apart later on.
Nice.
And I like listening to other people's songs and trying to write songs like them. Bob Dylan did that a lot. That was like one of his things was like, get into other people's songs and try and write a song like their song.
Oh, I didn't know that about his writing process, actually.
Yeah, we do a workshop at our retreats called "Write a Song with your favorite songwriter,"
Oh, cool.
and it's all about that. You pick someone that you
Yeah.
love, and then you go analyze them, and then you come back and you write a song like them.
Was he one of the first people that you chose? I
Bob
mean, it
Dylan?
sounds like yeah, I mean, it sounds
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's like the like icon. I think it's so funny when you start out as a songwriter, folk songwriter. Like, who do you go to first, right? It's like I learned all the Bob Dylan songs because they're 4 chords and, suddenly you're playing Mr. Tambourine Man, you're like, "I'm playing music."
That's kind of how I felt about, well, not all Fleetwood Mac songs, but
Oh, yeah.
pretty simple, and same with, like, Creedence Clearwater.
Yep, Credence, yep.
It's like a lot of their songs are only 2 minutes and, like, 2 notes, you know?
So great though.
Yes.
They give a lot of permission. So if you're a songwriter out there or you're just starting, you don't need a lot of chords. You
Yeah.
just need to get in touch with what's real in your soul. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, I think that was a beautiful way to wrap up our conversation, so
Really?
yeah, thank you again. Is there anything that you would like to highlight that I wasn't able to cover in our conversation today?
Wow. I think you covered a lot. You really talked about all the events though. Yeah, I mean, if you go to like songwritersoiree.com, you can kind of see our whole world there of our culture, inviting culture.
And I'll have all of your social media linked in this podcast as well. So for our listeners out there, definitely check out Robin, all the amazing work that he's doing. We are definitely curious about coming to a retreat in the future,
Yeah,
being myself.
right on. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I just it sounds like such a awesome program.
I would love to have you there.
I
Yeah,
know.
it'd be so fun to connect in person and hear some of your music live.
Yeah, well, writing, I think the busier I get with work and the more important it is to still have that practice to come back to, but it gets tricky, right?
Yeah.
It's, like, busy and
Oh my gosh. Can I share one last thing?
of course, yeah.
So, like, yeah, I've experienced that too. I have not written songs I have a major dry spell, like a year or more. And I started the Songwriters Nest, our online community. And every Friday we do a monthly song challenge every month. But every Friday we do these little entry point song challenges, like a 10-minute song challenge. We have to write a song in 10 minutes, no matter what.
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah, start a clock and like whatever comes out. Or we give people 10 words and you have to use as many of them as you can or write a kid's song in like 5 minutes. And let me tell you, I think we don't do things a lot because we make them big in our head. Like our perfectionism gets in the way. We're like,
Oh, yeah.
"Oh, I don't want to start on the
This or what.
yeah, oh, I can't even write a song." It's like a whole thing. I gotta get my guitar and I gotta tune it, and then I gotta think of something that inspires me, and then I got my perfection. But I tell you, when you set the bar like super low and you set a time clock and low expectations, it's like you're tricking your brain.
Yeah.
And so I've started writing a song every week using those little prompts and these sometimes I only write a verse and a chorus, but I'm there. I'm like, "Oh, I love this," you know? And they've all been about my kid, so that's nice.
Aw. So the next album,
So,
you
I
know
just encourage people who are like if you're struggling with like getting started on something that's important to you, think of is there a way that you can like set your bar like really low? Like is there a teaser version just to like get your toes wet where you can lower your expectations? Yeah.
love that. It's such a solid to
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
to all creatives and to anybody who is trying to, like, better their life, right? It's, like, such a good reminder. So
Yeah. Perfectionism.
yeah, it really can be a tough sometimes.
Yeah. Anyway, you're a great host. I love the space that you're holding. I love the conversations that you're having. I listen to a bunch of your episodes and you bring on some great people and ask some great questions. And I love your blend of music and therapy and healing and spirituality and yeah, super authentic. It's really great. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, for all of our listeners, also thank you for tuning in today, and don't wait to go check out Robin's online community, The Nest, Songwriter's Nest. And with that, we will see you next week. Until then, stay healthy, wealthy, and wise.